The Galactic Council tried to ban human technology. It was too late. The vote. The Great Chamber of the Galactic Council had not been this loud in 300 cycles. Delegates from over 400 species floated, sat, hovered, and pulsed in their designated pods, their voices, some spoken, some transmitted directly as thought, some released as pheromone bursts, all colliding into one deafening argument. At the center of the storm stood a single motion, glowing in bold crimson script above the chamber floor. Resolution 4471H, the immediate prohibition and containment of human technological export. Ambassador Threll of the Vantari Assembly, a tall, crystalline being whose body shimmered with anxious light, addressed the chamber first. Esteemed Council, Threll began, voice modulated into the Council's common tongue. In less than 40 cycles, the species-designated Homo sapiens has gone from a pre-warp civilization confined to a single, fragile world, to the single greatest disruptor of galactic technological order in recorded history. A murmur rippled through the chamber. Their drives, Threll continued, violate 3 known laws of propulsion efficiency. Their communication networks operate on principles our own scientists still cannot fully model. Their weapons, when used, and they have been used, in defense, we must admit, bypass shielding technology that has protected member worlds for 12,000 cycles. And yet, interjected Ambassador Elixir of the Offer Cluster, her voice calm but sharp, you speak only of danger. You do not speak of the fact that their technology has already saved 3 member worlds from asteroid impact events our own defense grids failed to intercept. That is precisely the problem, Threll snapped. Their solutions arrive too fast, too unpredictable, too far outside sanctioned frameworks. If we do not restrict human technological export now, within 20 cycles, half the galaxy's shipping lanes, communication grids, and defense systems will depend on machines built by a species we barely understand, a species that, 300 cycles ago, was still burning fossil fuel and fighting wars over borders on a single continent. The chamber fell into uneasy silence. Elixir rose slowly. And is that not, Ambassador Threll, exactly how every great power in this council once began? 2. The warning signs. Far from the marble halls of the council, aboard a modest research vessel called the Meridian Drift, Captain Sophia Reyes was reading the same resolution with far less patience. They want to ban us, she said, tossing the data slate onto the table with more force than necessary. After everything. Across from her, First Officer Kian Osei didn't look up from his own console. To be fair, Captain, we did just accidentally outperform the Threll Compact's flagship defense grid with a repurposed asteroid mining laser. That wasn't an accident, Sophia said. That was engineering under pressure. There's a difference. Tell that to the Council. Humanity's rise had not been gentle, and it had certainly not been planned by anyone outside a handful of desperate engineers. First contact, 38 years earlier, had not come as an invitation. It had come as an ambush. A minor scouting fleet from the Threll Compact, testing the boundaries of an unclaimed system, had discovered a species far more dangerous than its technology suggested, not because humans were more advanced, but because they were relentlessly, chaotically adaptive. Where other species optimized within known frameworks, refining engines and weapons and networks along paths laid out by their oldest scientific traditions, humans had a habit of ignoring the framework entirely. Grief, competition, curiosity, and stubborn refusal to accept impossible as a final answer had produced solutions that made little theoretical sense, and worked anyway. The Council had spent 30 years trying to categorize humanity. They had failed spectacularly. They're not wrong to be scared, Kian admitted, finally looking up. We don't fully understand our own tech half the time. Dr. Okonkwo's drive core still runs on a formula she says came to her in a dream. It works, Sophia said. That's my point. 3. Too late. The Council's vote passed 612 to 209 cycles later, banning the export, licensing, and further proliferation of human-derived technology across all member systems. It changed almost nothing. Because by the time the resolution was signed into Council law, human technology was no longer something that could simply be recalled. It had already been woven into the foundations of 100 worlds, not through conquest, but through necessity. Colonies on the edge of Council space, too far from central supply lines to depend on slower, more bureaucratic systems, had quietly adopted human-designed water reclamation units because they worked in conditions no other technology could survive. Hospital networks on drought-stricken worlds ran on human medical algorithms because they adapted to unpredictable outbreaks faster than any Council-certified system. Independent trade fleets used human navigation software because it calculated safe routes through debris fields that Council-approved systems still labeled impassable. You cannot teach a galaxy how to survive better than it did before. They're trying to close a door, Dr. Amara Okonkwo said calmly, standing before a room of increasingly frustrated Council enforcement officers who had arrived at the Meridian Drift to assess compliance. But the room on the other side is already full of people who've walked through it. The lead enforcement officer, a broad-shouldered Keton officer named Vosk, folded 4 of his 6 arms. Doctor, the Council has ordered the immediate decommissioning of all unlicensed human technology aboard vessels in this sector. Decommission it, then, Amara said simply. Every device, every drive core, every water reclaimer. Go ahead. Vosk hesitated. He knew, as everyone in that room knew, exactly what that would mean for the 11,000 colonists on 3 nearby outposts who depended entirely on that unlicensed technology to breathe, drink, and survive extreme radiation storms that Council standard shielding could not fully block. You understand, Vosk said slowly, that this puts the Council in an impossible position. No, Amara said gently. It puts the Council in an honest one. You built your laws around the world as it used to be. It's not that world anymore. 4. The New Order. In the cycles that followed, the Galactic Council did not collapse, nor did humanity conquer it, as the more dramatic corners of Council media had predicted. Instead, something quieter and far more complicated happened. The prohibition on human technology was never formally repealed, but it was, world by world, colony by colony, simply ignored, until the ban existed only on paper, a monument to a fear that had arrived 1 generation too late to matter. Ambassador Elixir, addressing the chamber nearly 2 years after the original vote, put it more plainly than most delegates were comfortable hearing. We did not lose control of human technology because humans overpowered us, she said. We lost control of it because we spent 30 cycles asking whether we should let it in, while 100 worlds spent 30 cycles simply using it to survive. Power was never taken from this Council. It was returned to the systems that could no longer function without what we tried to forbid. Aboard the Meridian Drift, Sophia Reyes watched the Council's final compliance report scroll past on her screen, page after page of quiet admissions, technical exemptions, and reluctantly renewed agreements. So, Kian said, leaning against the doorway, did we win? Sophia considered the question for a long moment, thinking of the desperate engineers who had built humanity's first warp-capable ship out of scavenged materials and stubborn hope, of the colonies now breathing easier because of technology born from crisis rather than careful theory, of a species that had never set out to conquer the galaxy, only to survive it, one impossible solution at a time. No one won, she said finally. The galaxy just finally caught up to what we've known since the beginning. And what's that? Sophia smiled, watching the stars shift gently outside the viewport as the ship began its next unlikely, theoretically impossible jump. That you can't put a species back in a box, she said, once it's already learned how to build the door. The end.